The stale air in our bedroom hung heavy, thick with unspoken resentments. It had become our nightly ritual, the silent ballet of avoidance. I lay on my side of the bed, feigning sleep, while Ellie, on hers, scrolled through her phone. The soft glow illuminated the smirk that had become a permanent fixture on her face. It was a smug, knowing kind of smile, the sort that twists the gut of a man who suspects the worst but clings to the hope that maybe, just maybe, he's wrong. I wasn't wrong. The past few months had been a slow, agonizing unraveling of the life we'd built together. The stolen glances, the hushed phone calls taken in another room, the increasingly frequent business trips that never quite added up. They all painted a picture I had desperately tried to ignore. But the final brushstroke, the one that shattered the illusion of normalcy, came in the form of a misplaced phone charger. It wasn't ours. It belonged to a brand I didn't recognize, and it had been tucked away in the drawer next to Ellie's side of the bed, a drawer she always kept meticulously organized. Driven by a mixture of dread and morbid curiosity, I waited until Ellie was in the shower that morning. I picked up her phone, a device that felt like a foreign object in my hand, and prayed I wouldn't find anything. But my gut had been right. The photos were there, hidden within a recently created album, a collection of snapshots from various bars and restaurants. They showed Ellie, not with a business colleague or a client, but with another man, his arm around her waist, their heads close, their faces bright with a happiness I hadn't seen on Ellie in a very long time. The worst of it wasn't just the blatant betrayal. It was the look on her face, that genuine laughter, the utter lack of reservation or care for me. She looked happy. It was a happiness I had apparently failed to provide. And that's why, here I was now, feigning sleep while my world quietly imploded around me. I could hear her soft chuckles as she scrolled, the occasional snort punctuating the otherwise silent room. Finally, I decided to act. I gently rolled over, pretending to wake from a light dose. "Hey," I said, my voice thick with feigned sleepiness. "What's so funny?" Ellie jumped, startled, but quickly regained her composure. "Oh, nothing. Just some memes," she said, making a half-hearted attempt to hide her screen. But the smirk was still there, a mocking challenge edging across her features. "Oh, yeah?" I asked, my hand outstretched. "Mind if I see?" She hesitated for a fraction of a second, then reluctantly turned the phone towards me. It felt like time had slowed to a crawl. I pretended to scroll through the same photos she had just been looking at, pretending to be amused. Then I turned the phone over, placing the display in front of her. Her face changed instantly. The smirk vanished, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated horror. Her eyes widened, her breath hitched, and the phone trembled in her hands. It was as if she had looked at Medusa and been turned to stone. This reaction, this was what I had been waiting for. I didn't let her off the hook. I didn't give her a chance to deny or fabricate some ridiculous lie. I kept the phone facing her as I spoke. "I noticed something odd," I said, my voice steady but with an edge. "Ellie, take a closer look at that photo of you in the restaurant, the one with the red booze. Look past your smiling face, past the man trying to hide how stupid he looks." She stared, her eyes darting back and forth, trying to figure out what I was talking about. Her breath hitched. "Look at the reflection, Ellie," I said, my voice low and dangerous now, the gentle tone gone. I tapped the screen, pointing to the reflection behind her, visible in the shiny surface of the water cooler that stood awkwardly next to the booth. "Notice anything familiar?" Her eyes widened. She leaned closer to the screen, her lips moving silently. A slow flush crept up her neck, spreading across her cheeks as she finally realized what I was pointing out. There, in the corner of the reflection, almost hidden, was a figure standing in the aisle behind her. It was my reflection, or rather, the top of my head, just visible above the other patrons. And in my hand, clearly visible, was a phone. Not a smartphone, my old flip phone, the one I use for work because of its battery life. A phone so outdated that she barely registered it when she saw it with me. The full weight of my meticulous preparation hit her then. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was a realization that I hadn't just stumbled upon her secret. I had been aware for weeks, maybe months. I had been silently watching, collecting evidence, and building my case. She wasn't just caught. She was exposed. "You knew," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I nodded, a cold, almost predatory smile playing on my lips. "I did, Ellie. I've known for a long time. And you just kept playing me like I was an idiot, didn't you? You thought you were so clever, so careful. You made sure everything looked perfect. But you missed one tiny detail, didn't you?" Her eyes filled with tears, her lips trembled. I had waited for this moment. I had fantasized about it. But seeing her like this didn't bring me any joy, only a grim sense of satisfaction. "How could you?" she whimpered, her bravado gone, replaced by a vulnerability that felt forced, unnatural. I could have launched into a tirade of anger, yelled, accused, or even lashed out physically. But that wasn't how I was going to handle it. I had spent the past few weeks crafting the perfect response, a calculated and cold reaction aimed to cut her to her very core. "You have to be joking," I said, my voice ice cold. "After everything you've done, you think I'm going to let you turn this around? This is not about your feelings. How dare you?" She tried to reach for me, her hand stretching out, but I recoiled, as if from fire. "Don't," I said, my voice like ice. "Don't touch me. Don't even look at me. You disgust me." I had never spoken to her with such venom. I had never been capable of such anger. But her actions had changed me. They had chipped away at who I was. I stood up, walked to the closet, and retrieved the small suitcase I had packed the night before. "I'm leaving," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. You'll be served with divorce papers by the end of the week. I'm taking everything, every single thing. I will leave you with nothing, and it will be what you deserve. You might have been laughing at me in those pictures, but I assure you, you won't be laughing by the time this is done." She tried to protest, tried to reason, tried to apologize, but her words fell flat, lost in the sudden vacuum of my detachment. The smug, confident woman I had married was gone, replaced by a frightened, whimpering shell. I turned away, walked out of the bedroom, out of the apartment and out of her life. I never once looked back. As I walked down the corridor, I finally felt it, relief. Pure, unadulterated relief. My hands trembled, but they weren't trembling with anger anymore. They were trembling with freedom. I had been in a cage of her making, and now, finally, the cage was broken. Later, I would learn that she had called and begged for forgiveness. She said it was a mistake, a moment of weakness. She didn't know why she did it. She even went to the man, but he had shut her out the moment he learned I knew. She had lost everything, her marriage, her reputation, and even her lover. I didn't care. I didn't have a triumphant ending. I wasn't healed, and I wasn't suddenly okay. But I had the satisfaction of knowing that I had protected myself, that I hadn't given in to her lies. As I drove out of the parking lot of the apartment for the last time, a single thought kept repeating itself in my mind. I was free, and that was enough.